Super excited to have Jeremy on the podcast. We've known each other for how long?
About 28 years, a long time.
So I am 43. We probably met when we were 13, 14 years old. So that's about how long it's been. When I was in high school, actually, we both lived in Branson, Missouri, the country musical capital of the world. And I did not know that your dad was in the music entertainment business. Is that right? Your dad or
Yes. Yeah. So we started out, we started out in Las Vegas. My dad had a lifetime contract at one of the casinos there. And he just got really tired of being in the bar scene. And so we moved, they moved us to Dallas. And while we were down there, there's a show in Branson called The Presleys. And my dad had an audition with them. They loved him. And so they moved my entire family up to Branson. And he sang there for almost 20 years.
I did not realize how many people we went to high school with that were in the entertainment. I had no idea,
Yeah, lots of them.
When I was in high school, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Mm-hmm.
And I took biology class. I had to dissect the sheep's eye. Do you remember doing that? The sheep's eye.
Yes.
The fetal pig or something.
Yes.
Earthworm. I think we dissected.
I remember the earthworm and all the hearts.
And I don't think that's what got me. I think it was more when I had to memorize all the organs of the body in 60 seconds. I don't know if you remember that. It was in Mr. Harris's class, and we had to memorize where all the organs are placed. And I couldn't do it. And it was so much anxiety. I decided from that point on, I would not be a veterinarian.
That's what high school's for. You get to figure all that out.
I'm like, I can't do anything in 60 seconds. So tell me, what did you want to be growing up? What was your, what did you want to be?
So I was always, like, as you know now, in the music industry. And, we were also, my father was a praise and worship leader in Branson. And so church music was just always a part of my life. And I remember one day I was probably 8 years old. I was outside playing in the yard, and I had this baseball bat. And I'm like, God, I'm going to hit this tree. And if a spider comes down, I'm going to be a pastor. That's exactly what happened. A little spider came down, but I didn't become a pastor in that sense. I became a worship pastor. So close.
Wow. I did not think to do that about a veterinarian. My life could have completely changed if I had just taken a bat to a tree. And
you got to just leave some stuff up to chance. Yeah.
Bring me down a ladybug, God. And so after high school, you made some not so good choices. We all make some not so good choices. So what did you get arrested for?
Well, the first time that I went to prison was for 7 different felonies. I had possession with intent to distribute, fraudulent attempt to obtain a controlled substance. I had 2 second-degree burglaries, 2 thefts, and there might have been, that may be 7. It's hard to remember them all because when you have 17 felony convictions, it's hard to remember which ones and when they were.
You got a little collection there.
I have quite a collection. I've also got second-degree robbery, a first-degree burglary. I just got a bunch of serious charges on there.
Yeah, and the cool thing is we can kind of laugh about this, and we laugh because we know the outcome and we know how much God has blessed you. So I just, looking back, you can be like, I was an idiot. It's, so I don't mean to laugh, but it is kind of funny because I can see how God has worked on you, and you're like, man. All right, so tell me, as a 23-year-old, what was it like? If you could sum it up and be like, this is what it was like as a 23-year-old in prison. Like, what did you feel? Did you feel hopeless? Like, or did you
so it's basically a 2-sided coin. So 23 going into prison, everybody that I was in jail with was like, man, you're going to love it when we get, because it's so much better than jail. And it was one of those things that everybody's like, look, you go in, just keep your head down, work out, make yourself as healthy as you've ever been, work some things out. And so for that part of it, it wasn't bad. I went in with the mentality of, okay, I'm going to make the best of this. But nothing comes close to trumping the broken feelings, the loneliness, the regret, and the shame Those are just so overwhelming. And in prison, it's almost like the system is made to promote those feelings because obviously it's a punishment, but I don't think they understand the long-term effects from, putting someone through a process like that. And it definitely breaks you down. It breaks down your confidence, just everything about you. It's just a horrible place.
So who was sending you money? Did you have support from back home? People were sending you money?
Yeah. So my first time down, my parents helped me out a little bit. It was like $30 a week, which in prison is decent money. And that worked the second time. I think my wife put money on my books, and third time. The fourth time wasn't that good. My parents had had enough. My whole family had had enough. Everybody jumped ship as soon as I got locked up, and so I had absolutely nothing for the first year and a half that I was in there.
You're supposed to get what, a 2,000 calorie diet while you're there, which I don't know
Correct.
if that's accurate. So the money that you would get when you did receive it, what did you spend it on?
So when you're in there, they provide the basics, the absolute basics. So it's just horrible products. All they provide you with is a toothbrush, a little tube of some really bad toothpaste, a single blade, one razor, and then they provide you with some grays and I think a few t-shirts, socks, and boxers. And that's it. And so the 3 meals a day is never enough. You go to bed hungry, and that's horrible. But if your family can put some money on your books, you can buy, ramen noodle soup, snacks, summer dogs. You can buy so much stuff that I've made some incredible pizzas and just some prison food that is so good that you never would believe it. But also there's things like, in the wintertime, all you have are your very thin grays. So they sell sweatpants and sweatshirts, like skull caps, gloves. You can buy tennis shoes, TVs, Walkman radios. There's a lot of stuff. All the hygiene you could ever want, you can purchase in there. So yeah, you can buy quite a
But
bit.
I'm
Quite a
sure
bit.
it wasn't cheap, right? So I'm sure that $30 a week goes by super fast.
Yes, that's correct. So the contact solution alone that I had to have in there was $20 for the little bottle that's about like that. So yeah, I mean that'll eat up a lot of your money. And
And,
also, when I was down on my first two bits, you could also still buy tobacco in there, and so that a significant amount went to that.
and then how much for a haircut? Because I'm sure they charge, if you want to get your hair cut.
Oh well, haircuts are actually free
What?
according to the state, but one of your buddies is in there, and so you always kick them down, 2 or 3 stamps to give you the nice fade or whatever kind of haircut you want. Just got
Oh,
to take care of the guy. Everybody in there is trying to hustle for something.
yeah. So you mentioned a wife. Did she divorce you while you were in prison?
Yeah. So okay, when I was out there in my addiction, a lot of it was meth and heroin, and nothing good comes from those. I was not capable of being in any type of relationship, let alone being married to somebody. So when I was out there, everything you can imagine that comes with drug use was there. And so she and I's relationship was already always rocky because we were using together. When I went down this time, we had already separated. And when I got to prison, she started dating some people, and things just got really, really uncomfortable. We tried to work it out, but it just wasn't working. So my last year, she filed the paperwork and we divorced. Oddly enough, though, ever since things have changed, she and I are still really good friends. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
So the very last time you got out, let's see, you were charged 17 charges. You went in how many times? In and out? How many times?
4 total times to prison.
4 times. When you got released the first time, where did you live? Where did you end up? Because they always say have a home plan, right?
Yes, you have to have a home plan to get released. Otherwise, they figure out something for you, and that never works out well. So I had the option to go back to Branson and stay with my parents, but Branson was not a good decision for me to go back. That's where I had done almost all of my dirty work. And so I decided to parole out to Kansas City, and the only thing that they had available was a halfway house that the Department of Corrections run. And so I got out of prison at like 8 in the morning, and then I had to be I had to report to that place by like midnight. And so we went out and we got some things. I got, some hygiene, some new clothes, things that I needed. And we pull up to this place at 16th and Campbell, downtown Kansas City. And I knew I messed up the moment we pulled up. It was just the most disgusting, dirty place you can ever imagine. The people there, most of them were still stuck in their addiction. It smelled so bad of just human waste. And it was hell. It was almost as bad as prison.
And that's where you stayed, right?
Yes, I stayed there for about 6 weeks, worked really hard to get a job and get some money in my pocket. And as soon as I could afford this little rundown apartment right by the federal courthouse, I jumped on that.
So tell me how your relationship with your son, I mean, obviously it took you a while to even get to see him again, right?
Yeah, so actually that was a big blessing. So let's fast forward to the bit that I just completed, 3.5 years, got out in April of 2020. After my first year of none of my family would talk to me, I was talking to my friend Kenny on the phone one day, and he suggested that I just call Catherine, that's my son's mom, and ask if I could talk. And I did, and she answered. And from that moment on, she fostered a really good relationship. She answered the phone every time I called. And as soon as I got out and was able, I actually paroled out to a place called the Healing House this time in Kansas City. And as soon as I was able to take day passes from the Healing House, we drove out to Atchison where my son was, and I got to see him. And it was amazing. We spent the next, 3.5 years spending almost every weekend together, a whole bunch of extra time. And then he lives with me through the summers as well.
Sounds like she gave you some grace. She gave you some forgiveness, and she allowed you to, have that relationship with your son, which is incredible.
She did as much as she possibly could.
Yeah, that's amazing. You are a worship leader, or is that?
Yes, I'm a worship director for a church called Glory Church in Kansas City. It's at the corner of Troost and 31st. It's a church plant, put it right in the inner city because those are the people that we wanted to reach and connect with. And so I am a worship director there. And then for my main job, I'm a project supervisor for a sandblasting company. But we also do a lot of industrial coatings and floorings. And I'm kind of the industrial coating arm of the company. And then I also have a couple of side gigs. The Healing House brings me back once a month to lead their worship for their whole group of people on Friday evenings. And then I was on staff until recently with the Salvation Army, leading their worship for them, sometimes for their Celebrate Recovery.
We plant churches, and we always try to plant churches near colleges. So we always try to reach out to more campus. It's funny, you go to our church and, 60% of it is campus kids. And I always look at them and I'm like, man, when I was 21, I was definitely not in church.
Right. That's actually crazy that you bring that up, because when I was out there in my addiction, this is so funny. I grew up in the church, grew up knowing Christ. And so I would be driving around to Lowe's and Home Depots and wherever I could steal copper or whatever I could turn into money. But I would always have Christian music on my radio. And I might be riding around with a few other people that were in addiction as well. And I remember just driving down the road, and like sometimes I just break into tears because it was like God was just saying, hey, I'm still here. I still love you. There's nothing you can do to change that. And I actually had somebody tell me to pull over and let them out of the car once because it tripped them out. But God was always there, constantly reminding me that with him, I stand before him holy, blameless, and without sin. And it was the revelation of that actually changed my heart so I could beat this addiction and get out of all that life.
So are you part of Celebrate Recovery?
I am no longer on staff with them there. They did some budget cuts. So I don't do Celebrate Recovery as much. I work about 60 or 80 hours a week with my supervisor position, I work about 12 hours a week for the church and then about 4 hours a week for the healing house.
Because I know you were a part of Celebrate Recovery. What helped you the most through your addiction?
Oh, my church did 100%. You mean like what helped me get through and past the addiction?
Yeah, like, I know that CR is a really good program,
Yes.
helps people with addiction.
Yes.
And obviously church family. But yeah, I didn't know what impacted you the most to actually break the addiction where you could
Gotcha. So right before I went down on this last bit, like I said, I was always a Christian and had a relationship with God, but I wasn't ready to just submit to him. And I know that's such a scary word. It doesn't mean like what everybody thinks it does. Submit just means to trust that he has my best interests in mind. And so right before I went down on this bit, I met with my uncle, and he's a pastor in North Little Rock, Texas. And he introduced me to a new way of thinking about Christ. It was just putting the religious side, the pageantry, all those things to the side, and just focusing on a relationship with Christ. But it was more than just a relationship. Like, that's what every church teaches. What I had to understand was that Christ fully loves me regardless of my actions. And when you can actually wrap your brain around that, and when that becomes your identity, then the natural course is your life begins to change. Your language cleans up. You don't think about committing felonies. You think about paying your bills and doing the responsible things. And so it was definitely hearing the message of grace and just understanding truly how I stand in God's eyes.
It's a lifestyle change, I think.
It is. It absolutely is.
You are divorced, you have a son, but I hear you have a fiance.
Yes.
So tell me how you met.
Okay, this is such a great story. So my son and I were prepared, getting ready to go to a Brandon Lake concert, and I happened to live about, 100 yards from Sheffield Family Life Center, which is where this concert was. And we were standing out in the yard. I remember it so clear. It was a beautiful day. We were hanging out, and I just had this feeling that we had to get down there immediately. And I'm like, bro, get your stuff ready, drop what you're doing, get your shoes on. We need to go get in line right now, or we're not going to be able to get in. And so we just dropped the stuff in the door and ran down there and got in line. So while we're in line, he and I are just talking, and there's these two ladies that are in front of us. And I hear one of the workers for the church talking to them, trying to encourage them to go to this church. And one of the ladies says, well, we're from McPherson. It's 3 hours away. And I overheard that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I've done a project there. And so we start talking. And the crazy thing was I have never done a project there. I look back, I had them go back and look through our records, and I hadn't. So I don't know why I thought that I did. But we just start chatting. And I had also brought a couple of my friends. And so we all went in and decided to get these seats together. And I love telling this story, but I just had I had just sworn off women like 2 weeks before. I had decided I was just going to focus on who I was as a worship leader and my career and my relationship with my son. And so I wasn't looking for anything. So I just had no desire. And we start chatting a little bit throughout the concert, and we decided to just go to another concert that was coming up. And so her name's Katie, by the way, she decided that she should come visit me at my church before we go out and do another concert, which is her and I. And again, I'm not thinking anything of it. I just thought, what a wonderful woman that wants to celebrate Jesus with me. So I was talking to one of the girls at my church that Sunday that Katie was supposed to come visit. And I was like, yeah, this lady's driving up to see me, and we're just going to go worship at the IHOP KC. And she says, is this girl bringing her friend with her this time? And I'm like, no. She said, this is a date, right? I'm like, what? No way. So it's gotten to the point where I couldn't even tell when someone was attracted to me or even hitting on me. So she comes to church. It was wonderful. We go to IHOP to the 24-hour prayer room. And while we're sitting there, she puts her arm around me. And I'm like, well, that's nice. I still didn't think she was, attracted to me.
You're like,
And then
that's
a few minutes later, she puts her hand on my shoulder, and I was really thinking, okay, maybe she is. So I debated a couple of days about it, and finally I just texted her. I was like, "Hey, are you interested in me?" And she said, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, I think I'm interested too." So the rest is history. She lives 3 hours away, but we're getting married this year. We actually just signed a contract on a house 2 days ago, and she drives 3 hours at least once a week to come visit me and spend time with me. And when I'm away, when I'm available, I drive out to McPherson to spend time with her. But all that's almost over, and we won't have to do any more driving.
wow. So when are you getting married?
Well, that's actually funny. We haven't decided yet because we're trying to figure out how to sell both of our homes, purchase this home, and then she's got a son that is still in high school in McPherson, so he needs to finish his senior year. So we're not sure.
Okay.
We might just go elope and then have a ceremony down the road. But our focus is just eventually to get married and start an amazing relationship that's centered on Christ.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Aw. I've seen pictures of her on
Yeah.
social media. You guys are so cute together.
Yeah, she's definitely the better half. Absolutely gorgeous and so incredibly smart and so patient. She's just one of the sweetest women you'll ever meet in your life.
What does she do?
She does HR
Okay.
for a nursing staffing company,
Oh,
and which is incredible. That's why she's able to drive and see me all the time because she works from home and so very flexible with her schedule, and that's amazing. Another blessing.
yeah, that's awesome. To wrap this up, we're going to play the this or that game. Are you ready?
Let's go. I
It's
don't
like
need to buzz. I don't need a buzzer, do I?
nope. Really, I mean, you can make the buzzer noise. No, I'm joking. I was writing them down just now. So yeah, they're real quick. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Would you prefer roller coasters or a water park?
Water park.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, absolutely.
Chocolate cake or chocolate brownie?
Chocolate brownie, but I'm not a big fan of chocolate, so I might not eat either of them.
Okay, well, we were just talking earlier about being healthy and fit, so I just
Yes.
threw that in there.
Yes.
Okay, so if you were to go to the movie theater, would you get popcorn, soda, or both?
Both every single time.
Yeah.
Yes.
What soda do you drink?
We like to fluctuate. We don't like to do the same thing every time. So it could be Dr. Pepper, it could be root beer, it might be something completely off the wall. They got really cool dispensers here, so there's like 30 different things to choose from.
Oh my gosh, they do. Where were those in the 90s when we were in high school?
Oh, right.
Okay, summer or fall, which one do you like better?
Oh, I have to say summer, even though I do love the temperature of fall. Things just start dying then, and I love life. I love the green of the summertime and just being free to go outside. And yeah, that's where I'm at. And I'm pretty sure it's fall back, so for the time, and I don't like that. I like the sunlight as much as possible.
I think I like June because July is getting pretty hot. August is way too hot. And then
Yes.
I do like fall, but I feel like our summers here are rough. But
Yes, they are.
okay, last question.
Okay.
Would you rather? Okay, here you go. When you get married, would you rather take your wife on a cruise or take her to an all-inclusive resort?
That is a tough one because we were actually just talking about a cruise a little bit ago today. I think if the options were there, I'd like to do the all-inclusive resort because it gives us the freedom to go check out all the historical places of wherever we're at and just to focus on whatever we want to do instead of what's available on the ship.
Yeah, I like that. Wow, that's a great answer.
I thought about it a lot.
Wow, like you planned that one or something.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for
Thank
just
you.
talking on here and sharing.
Yeah.
Your story.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure, and it's so good to see you again and just to catch up. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share this story. I really hope that some people can see the absolute worst person in the world be transformed into something that's completely different. And yeah, I hope it's inspirational for somebody.
All right, and my last question is, do you think you're going to our 25 or 30-year high school reunion?
Yes, I can't wait. I got to show off this amazing woman that I'm going to marry.
Yes. Yes. Okay, well then I will see you there.
All right, look forward to it.
All right, bye, Jeremy.
Bye, Heather.